Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice by Matt show. My name is Matt Berthot, and I'm your host. And today we have another repeat guest, Angela Goodman.
Another repeat guest. Should we even call this the Voice by Matt show? Should it just be something different?
I
I don't
think
even know.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. We might just take clips from this little thing and roll it out there too, instead of doing a full length release. Like
Oh yeah.
maybe we just take clips from this and we post it out there and say, hey, we were having a talk about X, Y, and Z. And somebody mentioned it. And so then I don't know.
We'll
I don't
see. We'll
know.
see about that.
I don't know that we know anything about that yet.
The question today, to start with,
Mm.
let's talk about how we raised our identities and the struggles we face in reprogramming our emotions. So the first question, Angela, what do you mean by let's talk about how we raised our identity? What identity?
So I was listening to a podcast with Ed Milet and Brendan Burchard that aired, I don't know, not long ago, a few weeks ago, I think. And I was listening to the podcast and I started thinking about who I was pre personal development, me, and trying to understand what my identity in my own head was. And it was interesting because what I realized is that back in the day, before I really started realizing I could continue to grow as an adult, I had an identity of myself as somebody who could accomplish and achieve. But I didn't really have an identity as to who I really was inside. Doesn't that sound silly? It sounds silly.
So you were not being the person that you could be on the
Well, I don't
outside.
think I even knew who I was. I don't think I even had a good understanding of who I was meant to be or what I was meant to be doing. I don't think I had a good understanding of that. I mean, I always kind of knew that I did certain things certain ways, but I don't think I had any awareness of what my purpose is here on earth. So you ask those four questions at the end of every podcast, right? About what do you love and why are you here on earth and what are your purposes? Like you love those questions. Those aren't questions I used to ask myself. So I didn't even have an understanding of really what my true identity is and why I'm even here. I mean, did you always have confidence in who you were and your identity and understanding all of that? Did you always feel that way, or do you have a time frame where you're like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about that?
Well, I mean, growing up in the Midwest, it was all about football, baseball, and wrestling, year round sports. I went to church every Sunday. I went to catechism on Wednesday. Grew up Lutheran. I mean, everything around me was win, do your best, like most of the time. Um, I grew up, liking the same toys everybody liked, Transformers, GI Joe, the movies that we liked, Goonies, Ghostbusters, Star
Mhm.
Wars.
Yeah.
Um, so I look at all of the external influences that we had, but there are also moments of like me being very curious about aliens and energy and Loch Ness monster and Bigfoot. And that's one of the reasons why I like Joe Rogan, is because he has no shame about it. He just talks about it still. But I look around my office, I look around my house, there's all kinds of superhero, iconic spirituality, rocks, crystals, monk beads, monk bowls, guitars, piano, technology, chief stuff. And so, the identity, I think a lot of our identity is what is around us in our environment. That's what shapes really everything. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, um but it's the stuff that was not external that was the most confusing to me is, you know, why do I feel what do I feel and express this emotion so intense? And it looks like from what I can feel from other people, sometimes it doesn't feel like people are comfortable enough to let themselves experience the depth and intensity of an emotion. And so they don't let it come out. They don't share it. And so, like, for me, when I do share it, even now, it's concerning to people. And it could be concerning in a joyful way. And man, he's crazy. He's silly. To, wow, that dude is super over the top, intense, out of control. And so, I talk about the identity of me. It's, I have not, it's like this slingshot, it's like this rubber band thing. I keep coming back to spirituality. I keep coming back to God, back to spirituality. And it's, it's cool. It's just really tough. It's really hard. Because, you know, it's just a lot of confusion of external versus internal. Like what happens outside of us versus what we feel inside of us.
Well, so when you talk about the level of intensity that you have with emotion, because it's something I also have that people notice with me as well, that in that level of intensity is hard for people to absorb, you know. Which is one of the things I love about us in our relationship because we both understand each other in that way. But I wonder when we were put here, when we arrived here, we knew nothing of that. We knew nothing of that. So is that a part of our true identity, our soul's identity? Or is that something that has happened with us because of all of the external factors and the traumas that we've lived through? So, was there a point in time where your soul felt it couldn't express itself? And so you then created this superpower of emotion to help you express what you were held back from expressing for years. And I'll say that to you, but in for me, that is 100% the case. Like there was a time in my life where I was told not to talk. There was a time in my life where I was told not to share my feelings. There was a time in my life where I was told not to speak my truth. And I strongly believe that part of the reason why I am so intense in all of those things now is because there was a period of time in my life where external factors told me to shut up. So I wonder, like, our actual soul and who we were born to become, if that's actually not part of our identity, but to your point, externally it shaped who we are today. So is that something that we should be working to atone before we get to the final day? I don't know.
Well, the confusing part is that we are human and we have this
Mhm.
body that's
Mhm.
experiencing life that our body feels guilt or shame or remorse or dark or sad, angry, depressed. And also, we feel love and joy and happiness and bliss and excited. And so, that's the human experience. Uh, I just read in a book that, the spirit, the Holy Spirit, isn't the reason for guilt or shame or remorse, anger. And so everything that is good is our soul, is our spirit, and everything that is challenging with the negative emotions is our body. And really the external things that we have messed up or whatever in our lives. And it's before I started doing the Esto voice training, uh I was I was just happy, uh you know doing my everyday job as a vocal music teacher at Winfield High School and teaching voice lessons on the side. And you know
What was
um
your internal identity then? Do you know? Do you
helping people.
remember?
It was the same, helping people find their voice. It was the
But
same.
that's okay, but that's your purpose. But what was your actual identity for you?
It wasn't for me.
No, no, no. I'm saying who were you?
But
What was
I
your
was a
actual
servant. I was a servant helping everyone else. That was the problem. I didn't help myself first ever. Like really. It was all about everybody else and what everybody else wanted and needed.
Mhm.
And so, when I did my first Estill, Estill, voice training with Kim Steinhauer at Southwestern College for, 15, 20 years of my life, I taught and did singing the way that I was taught in college. And Kim Steinhauer comes in and says, "No, it's not about the air. It's about these vocal folds, and they make these moves and these sounds, and you can strengthen them and be a vocal athlete." And I was about 38, 37 at that point, and it was like I was so angry because my ego was so bruised, like I was almost lied to. Uh, and I remember Friday of that 5 day intense, exhausting workshop. I cried in the bathroom at my old house because I had to go back and tell my students and everybody that I taught, "Hey, I was not right. I was wrong, and we're going to do it this new way." But more importantly, it was the first time in my life that I knew I could grow as an adult again. And I would like 245 then, 250. And it felt very selfish. And I was still running every day, but there was no like, today is 4,700 days of running every day. And I didn't lose weight because I drank all the time, I ate all the time, I watched what everybody watched, um, talked about what everybody talked about. I mean, even now, I try not to engage in like politics or popular talk. I'll still talk about the Chiefs all day long, but as far as everything else goes, I just I don't know. I learned like it was kind of a waste of energy. Um, so my identity in that moment of choosing, well, it happened two ways. One, in 2016, going to the Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta, Georgia, I saw these teachers being their best self and just having the best time ever. And I was like, man, I want that. I want to do that. And I was extremely out of shape. I looked miserable. Um, and here this guy, Ron Clark, has a suit on. He's rapping and dancing with the kids and having the best time teaching freaking math. And I was like, man, there's so much freedom in what he does. I want that so bad. And so I just started testing it. That's where I came up with the Angela. That's where I came up with that. And that moment, when I saw these people being their best self as a teacher, that's when I said, I want that. I want more of that. But I had no way to do it.
Do you feel like you ever achieved that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. In 2019, when I presented in London, I that was the best physically I've ever been in my entire life. And I had freedom, I had fun, I was innocent, I didn't know any better, I didn't know what I was like getting into. I felt energy and spirit. Um, and the other cool part was everybody was cheering me on. Everybody. Everybody was like, "Go, Matt, go, do it." But then I came back. I remember getting done with that presentation and people crying and giving me a hug. And the presentation was on transformation magic for all using Estel in public schools. And it was about the intention steps. It was about spirit. It was about energy. It was about activating flow state, God, letting the spirit flow through you. And I got to visit Stonehenge. But I knew after that presentation, when we got back to the Olympus Hotel and I talked to them in the lobby, I knew that my life was about to change forever. I just, I, I didn't know what that meant. You know, getting my music degree was painful. It was horrible. It took me 6.5 years of agony and pain. The only fun that I actually had was performing, getting that degree. Like it was, you know, it was a different language. Like you asked me this morning if I want to learn Spanish, and I'm like, boy, oh, that's hard. But I knew I was supposed to be a teacher. When I got in front of people and I watched them transform into the best version of themselves in front of my eyes, that's when I knew, okay, I'm supposed to teach. But that journey of getting that degree was, it wasn't like everybody else. I mean, it took me a long time and I got made fun of because I was in college longer than everybody else. Um, but then, you know, when I became a music teacher, you know, I wanted to coach wrestling and football because that's a part of who I am. I love it. I love wrestling and football. And I got to do all that and I got bored and I had to focus more on the program and more myself and the program. And then, you know, like I said, I did the Estel or the Ron Clark thing, then the Estel thing, and then joined Arte Syndicate after what Doug said. And then my identity got wrecked, just completely annihilated because I started really digging in this spiritual, energetic side of me that I don't know. It was a lot of stuff that I think in usually people's lifetime, most people, they don't even deal with it. They don't even try to deal with it because it's generational. It's been in your family tree forever. This pain or depression or suicidal thoughts or addiction. And the last 3 years since dad died, I've had to face all of those. And when you face those things, it's it's uh it's disgusting. It's yucky. It's not fun at all. Like there are so many times you want to quit, and then you keep facing it. And I hurt people with my behavior and my actions. And it was because I was facing these uncomfortable things in my life that are on my family tree that I chose to face so that Max and Leo won't have to face it. So I think the identity of who we are is our soul and our spirit. The body is a vessel, it's an external representation of the thing that we are in our soul. But our body is it's just a vessel. It's just a housing thing for
Mhm.
the most important part of us, which is eternal. And it's scary that it's scary to know or think that this body that we have is it. Like it's all that we have.
No, it's not.
Well, I mean, externally that we know this is what we consciously know is this. And it's pain. I mean, even doing this, my hands hurt. My body, my shoulder, like I have goosebumps. Like the thought of what happens after this is gone and deteriorated, it's always something that's terrifying because I think, just thinking about it right now, I think that life is it's definitely a journey, but it's a journey of fulfillment of the soul.
Hmm.
And did you, did we, with this body, fulfill everything that we could fulfill externally with and through our soul? And I'm not there yet. This thing that I'm doing right now and that you're doing right now is so foreign than to, it's not completely foreign, but being here in this space with a light on me in a house that is completely empty except for me, talking to people on a screen around the world, and they're not in front of me like my students used to be. It's different. It's the same as far as delivery, but it's different. And it's not it's more normal now than it used to be, but there was definitely complacent ease when I was just doing my job. When it was just, I'd show up at this time, I'd do my thing, I'd do what I was supposed to do, the policies, whatever, sign my things, do this, do that, come home, repeat. And I just think about the world and, Angela, I think what we are doing is showing people, hopefully, what's possible if you really dig deep and you face the really hard things that your family tree was supposed to face at some point in order to grow. That was a long answer for identity.
I think you're correct. Uh, in what we are supposed to be doing, the two of us. My whole life has been one where I'm usually first to try things, first to risk stuff. I'm first to take a chance. I took a personality assessment. I forget the dang name of it. I'll have to look it up. And my personality type is like less than 5% on the planet, and it's called the Daredevil. Like part of my purpose is here, and you said this to me last week when we were having a really difficult discussion about what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Um, is to take risks and to show people that if you take risks, it's okay. You're still going to get through it. You're going to figure it out. You're going to learn. You're still capable of growing. I think that's one of the things that I love most about our stories, which run very concurrent to each other. You know, we didn't know each other a year ago, and we were doing life transition at the same time. It's wild to me. You know, when we were on our way to the airport the other day and we started talking about your physical transformation and your journey with yourself, and you said to me October 7th was the first recorded day in 2011 that you had on your calendar for the run, which I'm sure you probably had it before then, but I mean consistently. And October of 2011 was my 1 year anniversary from when I almost left this earth. And I started my own physical journey that same month. And which is what eventually one foot in front of the other has gotten me to where I am today. With most of my heavy lifting on my journey starting in 2019, 2018, around the time yours did. Um, Actually, mine was 2015 when I decided to open the restaurant and leave my career, which to your point had been very complacent and very much day to day, very much all of those things. So I find it really interesting that, you know, I think that your statement of we're doing what we are supposed to do is 100% right. You and I are both living proof that if you have the awakening and the awareness of where your soul's journey could take you, it's just one step in front of the other, and you're going to have bad days. I mean, we have bad days together as a couple. We have bad days individually as individuals. The good news is now we're have each other to kind of lean on and go through this process with. But you know, it's not easy. None of this is easy. And I firmly believe that our entire purpose on life as human beings is to figure out how we get to the end of our life and have lived it to the potential we were meant to live it for. And did we complete our purposes, and did we fill the world with our gifts as we are intended to do when we arrive here? And I don't know how many reincarnations that takes to get to that point. I don't know if you can do it in one incarnation or if it takes several. That's a whole nother topic of conversation that is of interest to me, but I think you're 100% right in the statement you made. Our journey is one that is hopeful for others who haven't started it yet.
Well, you know, I'm looking at the Arete Syndicate core values.
Mhm.
Create a positive impact. Leadership through action. Do the right thing. Be humble. Hard discipline. Commit to dominating. Good isn't enough. Excellence is essential. Be a lifetime student.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that last one is probably the most important one for growth. Um, because being being an adult, going to something to further yourself in a curiosity that you enjoy, and for me it was voice. Um, when you do that, it's almost like in the Matrix when Neo has the choice to take the blue or the, what is it, the blue or the red pill?
Blue or red, yeah.
Yeah. And, Morpheus even says, I forget which pill it is, but with one pill, everything will just be the same. You won't know any different. You will just go on in this world and not question anything and live a happy, ignorant life. Very, very settled, very, very still life. But if you choose to take the other pill, you will know everything and you will know what's possible. You will know where you came from. And that life is very difficult, very hard, but the most fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with the Frost poem, The Road Less Traveled. It's a Teddy Roosevelt quote: mud and sweat and blood. Who knows neither who knows the great enthusiasms and devotions, who at least if they fail while daring greatly, so they will never be with the cold and timid souls that know neither victory or defeat. Cold and timid souls. That's what I was. I was just making a little bit of extra money here and there and really helping people like a lot with their voice and getting these students to believe in themselves and believe that they could do anything and encouraging them to go after their dreams, which tons of them have. But the majority of the world, 99% of the world, is pretty much okay with not knowing what's possible, with just doing it the way that everybody tells them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is once you know what you're capable of, or you're on this journey of knowing, and you've surrendered your life to God, like I have multiple times. I yell at God almost every day. So when you get into that pool and that ocean, you can't go back to the simple, still, complacent, settled, convenient world. There are parts of me that want to go back sometimes because it was a lot easier in every aspect. But the fulfillment of my soul knows better. And my body, I'm alive still. Angela's alive still. There's a reason why we're alive still. So my identity now, my identity now is a battle between ego and spirit, and shutting my ego up and letting God and my spirit do the talking, and I can do the action. And that is faith.
Why does that bring you pause?
Because that's one of the hardest things to do, to let
Mm-hmm.
go, to have
Yep.
faith.
Well, not just to have faith, but also to understand that our egos get in our way. Our egos cause us emotions that are outside of love. Love is the only emotion that God knows and the only truth that exists. And all of these other worldly and earthly emotions are generated from something else, most of which are driven by our own personal ego and our own personal want and desires that may be different than what our creator wants and desired for us when we were put here.
Yep. What's the saying? Faith beyond all understanding.
Yeah, love and faith. That's it. That's it. It's literally that simple. We can drive joy and happiness if we have love and faith. So, I mean, I'm guilty of it for sure, often where I will get reactive instead of proactive about dealing with things, or I'll get reactive because I'm not in a place where my mind will allow me to process without reaction. It's something that I feel like I work on every day. Things will happen to me or happen to people around me, or things will just happen in general, and I will have a fast reaction and then have to catch myself. Wait, don't react to that. Step back and try to see it from someone else's perspective. Step back and try to see it from a place of love instead of a place of anger. Some days that's easier than others. That is a constant struggle for me. But I think my identity is such that I am always learning. I am always curious about my own response and reaction now that I know I have that. I could very easily tell you, it's 2024 now. I could very easily tell you, 13, 14 years ago, I was all emotional response. I was all emotional response. That was my identity back then, but that's not truly who I was. It was who I learned how to survive to be. I lived through I lived through a sibling with addiction. I lived through divorce. I lived through adultery. I lived through um, verbal abuse. There's a laundry list of things that happened to my life that I lived through, that I just became a person who reacted in order to survive those things. And what I didn't realize until much later in life is I had built a barrier and a wall around me that had gotten so deep that nobody could really penetrate it, because I needed to survive. And so I did what I needed to do and shelled myself off to survive. Um, and now what I understand is response is not what we are meant to do. We are meant to sit back and not judge what other people do to us or for us or at us, but to sit back and just breathe love. That's it. We just need to love. That's what we're supposed to do, and have faith and not just survive and build the wall around us to survive. I would be very happy to go back to a simple life. I almost feel like it's we've most people follow what society wants for you and not what you want for yourself, because you don't really know what you want for yourself. So many people have never sat down and said, what I really want for myself. But you build what society says you want, whether it be a house, a car, a job. Then you have to have debt to have the house, the car, the job. Then you have to have all of those things, right? And then I feel like you get to a point in your life where you realize that none of that matters. What only matters is your journey and your potential and achieving what you're supposed to achieve while you're here in life. And then you continue to go back into simplicity. Just like I told you, like I need to get rid of all the things in my life, the real estate, I'm literally going to live in my camper. This is a discussion that you and I have all the time, and you roll your eyes and shake your head, and we're going to do it right now. Like literally, I literally want to get rid of all the complications in my life. I want to live on a beach or a mountainside somewhere in a little tiny one bedroom cabin or a little tiny one bedroom condo to see my sunrise every day. and just be able to help people and enjoy God. That's it.
It's really hard to do that right now when you have kids.
I know. I'm just telling you where I'm going. That's where my trajectory in life is going. It might not happen today. It might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen a year from now or 3 or 5 or whatever, but that is the goal for my life for the next probably 8 years is to figure out how to simplify it down and distill it so that I literally have to worry about me, you, the children will all be raised and independent on their own and helping other people using our gifts that we were given to use on the world.
That sounds great. I like that a lot. Now we just have to be patient
Mm-hmm.
and have faith.
Yep. And get out of our own way.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that was a great podcast today. I hope people got a lot out of it. We shared a lot. I need some food.
I can tell.
Well, if you have any questions, just ask Angela. You can ask her all the questions on Instagram, or you can ask her on Facebook. You can DM her and message her,
And then
and
you can
she will.
DM and message Matt and ask him
She
all the questions.
no,
And
she'll
oh,
answer
yeah.
all your questions that you have.
No, no, she won't either. She will ask you questions back. That is the most annoying part of Angela in general. You will give Angela all of this data, and then Angela will start firing questions at you that digs deeper into the data, and you will want to just be like, stop asking me questions, Angela.
All right, get ready for if you ask Angela questions, she's going to ask you questions. All right, if you need help with your business, you're a small business or a big business, you need help with your sales process, or you need help with your messaging, talk to Angela and I will help you. If you
Yes.
need help with an event, putting on an event, we're putting on an event in Nashville coming
Hmm.
up. Tell Angela and myself will help you. Well, for me, if you need voice coaching, help you be a better speaker, better presenter, better communicator, I'm taking new clients right now.
Yes. Call him. He's amazing.
All right. We will see you guys next week. Hope you have a great day. Goodbye.